like
maybe,
2 minutes.
yeah.
Hard, yeah. Well, let's not go for the triple entendre. Yeah, 2 at a time. That's what she said.
So I mean, you've been developing games for quite some time. Does this sort of technology?
It shows,
no.
Yeah.
I've been playing that stuff since then. What do you think about VR kind of coming back and feeling, to me, it feels more real than it ever has?
First of all, before VR came on and tried to sell itself at what it was back in the 80s, I was already in simulation in the aerospace, playing networked SGIs with flight simulators.
Like all the Magic Edge stuff.
The real stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And we were already there. And that was before Skyfox came out,
Right.
So when they started showing VR back in the day, it was like Trip Hawkins announcing 3DO and saying it was going to be a great 3D system. If you knew how the shit worked, you weren't going to be buying it. It didn't fly. If you didn't know how it worked, you might have thought you had a good box.
I was like,
right?
What a magic time I'm having with this grainy full motion video.
Yeah,
Thanks,
the big
Trip.
difference is today you put it on, it's a whole different deal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? So today we put it on and we go, wow, I'm not here. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not here. Stand on the edge of a cliff. Shit, I got a fear of heights. It's not good right now. Yeah. Right? All these other aspects. It's here to stay. The question is, how long is it going to take to get an installed base? How long is it going to take to solidify? How much is VR and AR, which is the Betamax and which is the VHS, right? How's it going to shake out? Right. But if you want to be completely submersed in worlds, there's going to be no better way than VR. And then we got issues, and eventually it's going to be this. Right. It's not going to be a 7-ounce headset or a 12-ounce headset. It's going to be this. Nanotechnology, quantum computing, whether it's this or it's in my contact lenses. No one's even going to know, and I can have the 37-second experience.
If you ask the Call of Duty Black Ops 3 campaign, they're just going to wire the neural interface directly into our eyes as of 2065.
Yeah, and I'll trust that.
Yeah.
No,
they got their button on their finger on the pulse of like what's actually going to happen. It's Call of Duty. They got the money for that.
Well, they've done that. There's prisoners you can go look on. They've volunteered to have those experiments done on them, and you can see how it wound up. And choose if you want that implant. Personally, I'd choose a different direction.
Yeah.
Kind of black and blue.
I'll buy a first gen VR headset. I'm not going to get a first gen neural implant.
Don't worry, the upgrade comes soon.
Okay, it's like, don't worry, we'll rip open your head again and put the new shit in. Like, no.
Yeah. So it's here. It's not going away. The question is how fast it take to get traction. How many car accidents are going to result from people being completely disoriented? I mean, we got all kinds of issues coming, right?
Yeah.
And but the fact of the matter is, there's a reason. Many people ask me, like, well, why do you think Sony didn't have a bigger talk about VR at the show? It's because it's being talked about on a flat screen. Right? You can't communicate it. And if you go, that's it, and people go, nah, I don't believe it. Well, that's not that great. You get in there, it's a whole different thing. Yeah. And the average public hasn't had a chance to experience that yet. And so I think the question is more, how long is it going to take? Who's going to win?
Right.
And how's it ultimately going to shake out? And what kind of byproducts emerge,
Right, the new issues with all that stuff. John Drake, will next year's PlayStation press conference be presented for Morpheus owners in something that they can wear and just turn around and read the teleprompter the same way I do when I'm sitting in the audience?
Just be like, that joke fell real flat. Yeah, no, I think...
He's way off script.
Just Adam's jokes. I think it's good. You can watch my career, like, literally turf in front of you because my boss is sitting, like, 8 feet that way just off camera.
Well, I'm sure Kessler wrote all the bad stuff anyway, right?
Yeah, we try to punch him up, but he really throws him out there. I think it's going to be, that's the big differentiating content for Morpheus, is that it'll be the PlayStation conference will be exclusively presented in Morpheus. No one else will be able to see it. If you want to know what's coming,
here first.
You want the updates for Final Fantasy VII, you got to put on a Morpheus or nothing. No, I think we do. I don't want to say struggle, but I think it's nascent enough about how you show that stuff. And I think that is the big challenge, is communicating in a way that feels real to people. Like, it doesn't feel like it is a stretched out flat image, or feels like, I kind of get it, but I can't really imagine it there. But I think that the heightened emotions you get in VR is really what we need to communicate, because jump scares scare me all the time, right? Like I could see a horror game, and even on a 2D screen,
He fell asleep back there hours ago. Said something about he hadn't eaten all day or something.
My mic is gone.
I fell asleep behind the couch.
Okay. So that's why virtual reality is so immersive, because it's a 360-degree pants shitting experience. Also, but the thing I was gonna point,
well, that's an add-on.
Yeah.
Now that's your take.
Jesus. The thing I was gonna say is, I felt scared on a 2D screen, but we were playing the London Heist, and there's the guy blows smoke and kind of gets in your face, and I've never felt like intimidated before on a 2D screen. Because it's a 2D screen, there's a barrier there, and he gets up in your face, and you like start to back up a little bit, like he's invading your personal space, and that's a new sensation. I've never felt like nervous before in a game, and it was there's stuff we can do there that's hard to convey on a giant wraparound screen with Andy House just like talking. Like it works to a degree, but it'd be better if you could see it yourself, and so that's the big jump.
Yeah, I think Microsoft did a pretty great job of it with HoloLens. I
they sold the dream of it.
They conveyed, in a 2D space for those watching on TV how to do it. I'm not saying
he played it.
I did. Yeah.
Was that the experience you had?
I mean, so in terms of just
I want AR to be awesome.
How you interact with it and all that stuff, yes. But for me, it was, it is that the HoloLens viewport, again, is like that in front of your face. And so if you're looking out here, you're not getting any of that.
Right.
And that's the thing that, in taking that from a prototype to a shipping product, that's the thing.
But it's earlier. It's like that.
If I were to detect a hit, I would say that is a hit in the making, but right now,
1.5, 2.0.
Yeah. When they get,
it's a tween of the emerging technologies versus the
tween detector.
The 21-year-old, tween detector.
I don't know.
And I'm in jail. There we go. Well, that was a good run while we had it. There you are.
The John Drake tween tracker. Teasdale's working on it right now.
Dan Teasdale, spin up that
Get it going. Get a Kickstarter launched.
God damn it.
I do think the emotional thing that you do get, though, is real. I mean, I did think during London Heist that I did feel like I was in that car. The demo actually starts off pretty great with you picking up the soda cup.
Oh yeah, you were in the getaway part.
The getaway part, yeah. And but then when the enemies start coming at you and you have to shoot, not only do you have to shoot with your right hand, but then take the clips and redo the clips. And I really felt. You actually get into it way more than if it was just something I was playing with my controller.
Sure, totally. Hit X to reload, right? It's like it's much more nerve-wracking. But everything from games like that to quirky little puzzle games like Wayward Sky that the guys at Uber are making, or even over on Oculus, like the charm of the little Lucky's Tale character. It feels like kind of the warm Mario charm of that. Like there's a lot of possibility, and I think that we're starting to see it. But I wasn't trying to call out HoloLens. I actually think that AR is just it was announced a few months ago, and it's just coming into its own. This is the first time they've shown it.
Yeah.
I think it'll get better and better, and I think VR is 9 months to 12 months from being a product that's on shelves. And I think that it has to be a little further along, so hopefully we can keep selling that to people as the year goes on and make them believe. Yeah. We'll see.
Do you think we'll ever see the Odd World through a VR?
We're dabbling, but here's my honest opinion on how to approach the VR as a designer.
Okay.
Don't try to force fit other IPs into this new science.
Yes, please.
Treat this new science as something that you want to understand from its soup DNA upward, and then grow new crops out from those limitations. Because here's what's going to happen: there's going to be a lot of designers that blame the technology for why their audience has a 7-hour headache, right? And they're like, because the technology's not there yet. And it's like, no, because you suck as a designer. That's why everyone's getting sick, because the technology is good enough now that if you were applying those sciences, and look, it's a big discovery process, right? And everyone's going through it. But if we understand it, this didn't happen overnight. This is not new. Astronauts have had this problem. Pilots have had this problem. Motion-based theaters and theme parks have had this problem. 3D films have had degrees of this problem. Simulators have had this problem. So this is not a new science. But the game industry, you talk to guys and they're like, I don't need to pay attention to that. Look at this cool shit I'm going to do. And you're like, that's great, man. And please YouTube the vomit for me, right? Because it's going to be projectiling all over the place.
Players spinning around in VR, the opposite way their head's going. That's super great.
So the truth before he wandered off, Rami said he was going to work on a vomit simulator for VR. So,
I think
just go that route with it.
It's possibilities there. It could fly.
Yeah. Keeps jumping behind couches at people. I think people might barf all over the place.
But what we're going to have is we're going to have a real good excuse that's not true, that they're blaming technology for design faults. And that's where I think reverse engineering IP into VR is probably not the best way to start. Instead, understand VR and then emerge outwards. And we see that happening. You talk about the Heist. We look at the Walking Dead demo. We look at things that different people are doing and it actually worked, but it's all built on constraints, And they go, but my other shooter doesn't really work, so they don't have the technology right yet. And it's like, no, you don't have your mind space right yet around the problem that we're facing.
Right.
I could listen to this all day. This is my favorite thing that I've ever heard in the world.
Thank you. Let's hang out more often, man.
Anytime, Lorne. I'm here for you. When I yell on the phone, I will listen to you talk for hours. It's great.
Awesome.
Church.
Yeah, that's definitely seemed like the thing is, and you go back to like, the first Oculus getting out there and people like, oh, you make Half-Life 2 playable with it. It's like, yeah, you can do a lot of things.
Yeah.
But why would you do that?
You
That's
can cut your wrist too.
right. It's like, yeah, I can play multiplayer TF2 and look one way and shoot the other, and then that's a nightmare.
Yeah, I think it's analogous to 3D movies where there were certain movies that it was awesome that they were in 3D. There were others that they put it in there because that was a selling point.
You can make $20 a ticket if you put it in 3D.
Right, but there was no reason this movie needed to be in 3D at all. And in fact,
Well, the
it made it
reason
worse.
was because they really needed to sell more TV sets and they needed to get more people in the theaters, right?
Sure.
So if you
Yeah,
talk to them,
sure.
the audience never said, we want 3D. It was an industry saying, hey, if we can sell them 3D, then we could sell another round of TV sets because they already bought
Right.
the big screen HD and shit. What are we going to sell them now?
Right, but then you take something like
Sony's
Avatar,
fault,
and
then.
Avatar was the movie version of what you're talking about with
Yes,
games,
yes.
where James Cameron showed you why this could be so cool.
He built new tech for it, right, from the ground up.
But here's what's interesting, right? I watched the film 2 weeks ago at the old ILM with the old ILM effects crew. And it's a full theater. And before the screening, they say, we finally got the 3D here, and we're glad we can show it to you. That it's Mad Max, right? And Fury Road, and he says, but let me just ask, out of the audience, out of you people that have done the best 3D movies to date and do it as a science and have doubled your workload to make a 3D film, how many of you care about 3D versus 2D? How many of you prefer to see the movie in 3D? There's about 150 people of the best experts, Academy Award winners in that audience, and not one hand raised.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
That's not the case with VR. Right. So in 3D, we had industry trying to push a solution because it needs a new rev, it needs a new generation of buyers, it needs to be the fashion industry, right? Convince you need a new wardrobe on your wall next year. Yeah. That's not what's happening with VR. What's happening with VR is people get in there and they go, oh my God. How do we turn it into businesses? Not like
the exact
we got a
opposite,
business
yeah.
that's fading. How do we milk it?
What can we replace it with?
So
We've
that's
taken this
what's
crazy
popping up.
risk. How do we justify it versus the other way around? Of, well, we have to make some more money, so I guess we could take this very minimal risk of selling 3D TVs to people, right? Yeah,
Yes.
Different era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I think is really cool, here's one of the coolest things I think about the possibility. Games have been perpetually trying to get faster. Right. But the racing game now we got 60 frames per second, and we got better frame rate updates, and we got this and that. We got more chips, and we can do more rendering. We can get shadows in real time. We can get lighting. Blah 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 blah. Right. It's all about getting faster. But what's the lesson in VR? Slow down. Right. That means, you asked about Audible. Sure, we're doing some tests. We're dabbling. What am I dabbling with? Using motion code, using the AI in new ways, so that the characters are all sitting there like this. And using it so I can go, can I get eye contact? Can I get witnessing? What happens when I look here and he reacts and he reacts? A totally different way of thinking about how do we use this game technology. That's what's exciting to me. Will it work? I don't know. That's why we're dabbling.
Yeah, everyone's got to figure it out.
Yeah.
At some point.
But it's really interesting because we've slowed down. What's that allowing us to do? Focus more on character. Focus more on our relationships to character. That's what's cool about the best demos we're seeing, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the others where we feel like we're over the HO train set, and it's kind of magical in its own way.
Yeah.
But that's really like, what does that mean for designers? We can focus more on AI. We can make you feel like you're in a conversation with drug dealers, bank robbers, dysfunctional family. Maybe we had enough of that already growing up.
That's just Thursday night.
But we could do it.
No, it's it's interesting. I wonder what will be like, 10 years down the line from this stuff, because everyone is talking about it needs to be slow because people get sick. It needs to be slow for these reasons. But once we have a few generations and people get used to this stuff, can they speed it back up? Will everyone get used to it? Will you have people that have grown up with VR and they're just like, no, just give it to me fast. Like I'm never going to get sick because we're just wired this way now.
Well, wired this way. How many millions of years of evolution did that take? Right. So for us, collectively, I can kind of speak for us all, the idea of what we're experiencing in our sensory experience and us not being, that's connected to the real world. When it's not, it's called dreaming. Right? And so throughout history, we've had the dreams. We've been where we're disconnected. We believe we're in a virtual reality that's not actually in our physical space. But when we're awake, millions of years of evolution said, you haven't been here yet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't know what the byproduct of that is, and we don't know what the upward potential of that is. That's what's fascinating. Yeah. So when we say in 3 generations, will they acclimate and not have this intolerance again?
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, I knew guys who used to say, in future generations, we'll just be brains with sexual organs floating around because we won't need the bodies.
I'm still waiting on that one. Get me out of this husk.
Shed it.
Fast. Hurry. Please.
Help.
I can be freed as a brain and a penis. Yes, it's great.
Late night here at the Chalk
All right.
Podcast.
Well,
What happened to this?
After dark.
speaking of brains and penises, we're going to take a break. Thanks to everyone. Thanks, Lauren, Jeff, John Drake, for coming by.
Yes.
Thanks, Jeff.
We are going to get some brains and